All right, guys, so here we are with the Corvette Creations fiberglass wide body kit. I'm gonna do the quarter panels first, and I'm gonna show you guys a couple things on here, and then I'm gonna attempt to fit it up and get it going on this quarter panel. So I have it set up on the hood right here. Try to give you guys an idea of what it looks like. You can see how flat, you know, the stock quarter panel is. It just rolls right down over the wheel and doesn't have any hump whatsoever. And when you go to the Corvette Creations wide body quarter, you can see how much of a bump it is. You know, this is all out. Hopefully you guys can see that pretty well in this video. So if you guys are trying to figure out, you know, what the difference looks like, you know, this is kind of what the best I can do right now until I actually get it on. So one of the first things that you guys can see is that there's no lights in the new one. So these marker lights are not used again. Obviously you could cut a hole, but this actually sits down into the panel. So if you were to cut a hole, it still wouldn't look right. So there are no holes for the lights, and then the antenna right here, there is no hole for that also. That is a much more doable if you want to cut that hole out on your new quarter. You could definitely swap that over. The antenna is right here, and it bolts up like that, and it goes through the quarter. So what we're gonna do is probably bolt it sideways, do something like that, and then probably have the antenna go sideways or something else. But this is not going to work in those new quarter panels. As far as what these quarters look like, I don't know if I'd say they look pretty good. They look like aftermarket panels. This one has a huge hump right there, right in the middle of the panel. You might be able to see the reflection on it. You might not, but I can see it and you can feel it quite a bit. There's also probably a couple other little spots. There's a low spot right there that I can feel. And on the front, there was another spot, right? Like that's got a high spot and a pretty good low spot right here. So I'm gonna have to do some work to these quarters just to make them look good and look straight anyways. So if you're thinking about just throwing them on and painting them, they're probably going to look like a pretty crappy aftermarket quarter panel. And I'm not saying anything about Corvette Creations. I'm just saying that, you know, all aftermarket stuff is never as good a quality as OEM. So these are no exception. I don't know if the carbon fiber ones are better. These are the fiberglass ones. But I'm just going to give you guys a heads up about that you might have to do some body work to these. When comparing the holes on the stock ones, obviously these are very nice. This one doesn't look that bad. That one looks pretty poor. That one doesn't look that bad. So it's just stuff like this where if you're actually making this try to look absolutely perfect, you're going to do a lot of work to it. The ones on the back, obviously these holes are pretty small. They're marked out, but these ones are obviously a lot bigger. So I'm obviously gonna have to drill these out much bigger, get some adjustment in there. That's where the bumper bolts to the fender, to the quarter. So the one really big thing that I think most people have trouble with and have issues with when they're doing this is trimming all of this. If you look at how close these holes are to the edge of this panel and see how far in these are, there's going to be a lot of trimming that has to do on this side of the car. Even these ones, I mean, these are almost to the edge of the panel, and then these have, you know, 3/4, ½ inch of material that is there when you compare them. So obviously there's going to be a lot of trimming up on this edge to make it fit to the trunk and fit to the roof. One other thing that I'm going to point out is how this has urethane on it, the stock one, and right here you can see how there's the mark of the stock urethane. And when we go look at the car, when they put this roof on, and it doesn't always, this doesn't apply to every single Corvette, obviously, because there's different roofs, but you can see how far out that urethane is. I'm probably gonna have to cut or shave this off right here, and probably in here also, because that's gonna get in the way of the new quarter panel. So the way that all this is gooped over, you can kind of see the line of where the quarter was set in there, the factory one. So I'm gonna have to cut a lot of that out and grind up some of that off just so the new one will fit in. But you guys can see how close these bolts are to the panel, and on the aftermarket one, when it's got a really big gap there, I'm gonna have to do a lot of trimming. It's gonna be a lot easier to do this because it's just gonna be able to hang off on the inside of this. But obviously right here, until I trim all that, the quarter panel is gonna be sticking way out. So obviously you don't wanna cut too much. So there's a whole bunch of things that go along with this. It's not gonna be just throw it on and be done with it. It's gonna be a lot of cutting and trimming and fitting. And obviously you wanna have a good door. This door lines up really good. The rocker is good. All of this is stock. So I'm gonna do this side first. The other side I gotta put a new rocker on, so that's gonna be the last one to do. But there's just a whole lot of things that make this obviously harder to do. The way that this is manufactured is very nice. If you look at the aftermarket one, it's not cut really good. So there's gonna be a lot of grinding and cutting and fitting to get this to work. But I think that, you know, once it happens, it'll probably go on pretty good. And the second side will go on even faster. So that's just a intro to what these look like, and I'll set up the camera and start trying to fit this on and see where that takes us. And hopefully it actually goes pretty good. And I'll fill you guys in as we move along. All right, so I just cut notches. You guys can see that I cut notches on these ones that go underneath, just like the factory. And you know, that one doesn't really line up. That one's a little bit closer, and that one's not even close to where they had that hole drilled. So, you know, it's kind of disappointing, but I guess I wasn't really expecting much else. But obviously these are not really even close to being good. These ones look actually pretty decent. They look like they would line up once the quarter panel was where it needs to be. Obviously this, you know, in here isn't really doing much because it's out so far up here. So I'm just going to start cutting down that flange, mark it out and cut it down, and just keep trying to fit this on and see where we end up. All right, well, I have started getting this fitted, you know, not perfect, but pretty good. I cut this back because that was too far forward. I'm gonna have to cut it back a little bit more. Obviously, that's something to be really careful about, because if you cut it too far, it won't tuck underneath the roof. These are somewhat lined up. I ended up taking out this bolt. I took that one right out because it's not even close to being lined up. These are pretty close. Obviously, the way that I trim that isn't perfect. I gotta do a little bit better with that. I think right now it is still hitting right here because where the roof is, I think I gotta trim that back quite a ways so it goes around that notch right there. But if I can get this up here, I mean, that's how I have it fitted so far, which isn't terrible. I'm putting a bunch of pressure on it to keep it there. You know, you can see that this is still pretty far away. That doesn't look that good yet. When I close the door, there's a big gap. It's not even, so this still has to go in further. All right, so this is not done yet. Of course, my battery died from my GoPro when I was trying to do this, but this quarter panel is somewhat on, somewhat looks pretty good. I'm not, 100% happy with it because it is aftermarket. There are some things that I do want to try to do better, which is get this gap a lot closer, fitted better. It doesn't look horrible. This gap is actually pretty good. It comes out a lot right here, and this is very high. The quarter panel is up a lot right here, so I don't like that at all. The trunk though, it lines up pretty good, but I have to make some adjustments where these bolt holes are, because obviously if you can see, there's no mounting points right there, so I'm gonna have to adjust all these holes and go from there. It's not too bad. I did do a bunch of trimming. Obviously all the trimming was done up here. Like I said, this could be a little bit different if you were not doing in the Z06, which has this roof. But somewhat good. This line's actually not bad. The quarter panel sticks out a little bit. I might be able to adjust this door just a tiny little bit to get that to be more even. Not sure yet. But I'm gonna stop for today. This is probably a pretty good place to stop. Obviously, if you look at the side of this thing, it's very much a wide body. It definitely sticks out quite a bit. These wheels that are on here are the stock wheels, and they are definitely not even close to being, out to the outside of the lip. So, I keep looking at this huge high spot right here, and if this got painted, it would look so bad. So I'm gonna have to definitely do some body work. Probably put a little bit of filler on here to make that go away. I hate to do it, but just looking at that right now, it kind of makes me sick. So I'm gonna stop there, like I said, and wait for a couple more things probably before I keep going on. But it only took a couple hours to kind of get that fitted. I'll have a much better idea for the driver's side now about what I need to do and how to do it, but pretty good. The front fenders, this one's just thrown up there, but there's no holes for the front fender on any of the flanges or anything, so that might be a little bit more time consuming to do, but still I think it's not going to be that big of a deal. So I will end the video right there, and hopefully next time I come on here we'll have some more parts to put on and keep on going.